This Day in Sports History. And welcome back to another edition of This Day in Sports History. I am your humble host, Steve White, ready to take you around the sports universe with all the great happenings from this day in sports history. It is January 27th, and on this day we had not one, not two, but three huge reversals of fortune on the college basketball court. Serena Williams completed a career-saving comeback, and a coin flip changed history for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those stories, plus a non-sports fun fact at the end about a gun-wielding Eddie Van Halen driving a tank through Los Angeles. I'll get started right after this.
And that's the end of the first half. As the teams head to the locker room, the Spartans lead the Bulldogs by a score.
You guys stink.
Geez, Coach, we're only down a couple of points.
No, I mean you guys really smell. You need to hit the showers. And here, I got every one of you new bars of soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Each bar is artisan crafted using natural ingredients and essential oils. They also have shave soaps, colognes, beard balm, and a whole lot more. Now get in there.
But Coach, we have another half to play.
I don't care. I can't stand to be around you. A few minutes later. All right, bring it in tight. You guys are still playing terrible, but you're smelling great out there. Now listen, you're going to need to stock up for the rest of the season. We got a lot of tough games left. So go to sterlingsoap.com after the game. That's STIRLING soap.com. You got that?
Yes, Coach.
Great. sterlingsoap.com on 3. 1, 2, 3. sterlingsoap.com. So let's start off with a remarkable comeback on one of the biggest stages in what became known as the Miracle Minute. This was number 2 Duke on the road at number 8 Maryland. At the time, the Terrapins were in the ACC, and this was a huge league game. The Blue Devils were 18-1 and unbeaten in the ACC. The Terps were 14-4 and had won 3 straight conference games heading into this one. It was a tale of two halves for Duke's Jason Williams. Well, really that's not true. It was more like a horrible 39 minutes for Jason Williams and then 1 minute of absolute perfection. He'd shot the ball poorly all night from both the field and the free throw line. He'd turned the ball over 10 times, and after Maryland hit a pair of free throws with 1 minute left in the game, the Terrapins had a 10-point lead. Williams admitted years later that in a timeout towards the end of the game, he heard Maryland fans yelling "overrated" at the Duke bench, and he said he used that to light his competitive fire, adding he always seemed to play his best when he was mad. That's when something clicked, and Jason Williams went from pathetic to unstoppable.
The crowd on their feet. Williams goes down the lane to lay it in. Duke can no longer stop the clock. 53-5 to go. It's an 8-point lead. They need a miracle. There's one. Williams for 3. Cut to 5. Now they need 2 more miracles, and Maryland will call timeout with 48.7 left.
So out of that timeout, after Duke's 5-point barrage, they fouled Drew Nicholas to put him on the free throw line. Now, Williams had some words for the man getting ready to go to shoot the freebies.
And trust me, the whole way down the court, Chris Duhon and I are yapping in his ear, like about, hey, this is going to be short, hey, this is going to be long. He ain't ready to make this shot. He's not a big-time player. He comes off the bench, Chris, right? We know it's got to, we were talking to him the whole time. And he missed the shot. He missed both shots.
Duhon with a rebound. It's a 5-point game. Duke has the ball. Do you believe what you're seeing?
Maryland missed a shot on their end. Duke's Nate James hit 2 free throws to tie it up on the other end. Nicholas did have a chance to be the hero again, but instead his 3-pointer at the buzzer missed. Duke had erased a 10-point deficit in a minute, and the game went to OT. Duke scored 8 in the extra period. Maryland had a chance to tie it up to send it to a second overtime, but Shane Battier had one of the cleanest blocks when he rejected Juan Dixon's shot at the rim, and Duke won 98-96. In an equally impressive manner, on this day in 2024, Wyoming did something nearly identical to the Colorado State Rams. This was a Mountain West showdown in Laramie. With 1:10 remaining, Colorado State hit a bucket to go up by 11, 64-53. Game over, right? Well, not according to Cowboys senior Sam Griffin. As long as there was time on the clock, there was time to win.
Griffin elects for two, swishes. No timeouts though for Wyoming. Griffin fires three. Good! Griffin got it. 4-point game. Gotta be up.
Those back-to-back buckets narrowed the gap to 4. Colorado State hit one of 2 free throws on the next possession. With under 10 seconds to play, Wyoming was down 5. Griffin got fouled on a 3-point attempt, made the first 2 free throws, intentionally missed the third to get another possession. Wyoming came up with it, got fouled, made one of 2. On the miss, the ball went out of bounds, and initially, possession was awarded to Colorado State. But after a review, the call was overturned. Wyoming had the ball, down 2, under their own basket, with less than 2 seconds to play.
1.8 seconds to go. Griffin, the lob to Walters. Walters for the tie. It's good, and they're going to overtime here in Laramie.
The Cowboys dug themselves a little bit of a hole in the OT, but Aquel Cott dug them out of it.
Cott for the lead. Oh, he switched it. Got it. Cott.
He was fouled, completed the 4-point play. Colorado State missed the half-court heave, and Wyoming erased an 11-point deficit in the final minute to win it. Hey, we're not done with incredible comebacks just yet. Let's go back to what happened on this day in 1977, when New Mexico State brought in a backhoe, dug themselves a hole the size of Albuquerque, only to find a way to escape with a win. The Aggies were on the road in Peoria, Illinois, taking on the Bradley Braves on this night. For the first 6.5 minutes, the Aggies could not find the bottom of the bucket, and the Braves couldn't miss. With 13:33 to play, Bradley led 28-0. That's when New Mexico State finally removed the lid from the basket and scored their first points. And that started a 17-2 run in favor of the Aggies. They added a 16-6 run later in the half to trim the deficit to just 7 as the teams went to the locker room. The game was tight in the second half, with New Mexico taking their first lead with 3:20 to play, and then hung on to win 117-109. The 28-point deficit that they dug for themselves is the largest ever overcome to win before scoring your first points. On this day in 1976, it was the world premiere of the dunk contest. It happened during the final ABA All-Star Game, which was being held that year in Denver's McNichols Arena. The idea of even having an All-Star Game seemed a bit odd, even to some ABA executives. At that point, the ABA only had 7 teams in a one-division league. So the idea became having the team at the top of the standings play a group of All-Stars from the other 6. Fortunately for all concerned, the Denver Nuggets were the top team in the league at the break, so that helped a good bit. The idea of the dunk contest came from the league's public relations guy, Jim Bacata, who thought it would be a great showcase of the talent in the ABA and help fill up the 15,000-seat arena. And people responded by buying tickets. The dunk had become part of the identity of the league. Pre-game warm-ups around the ABA had become must-see entertainment. 5 competitors were chosen. The New York Nets' Julius Erving, Denver's David Thompson, San Antonio had 2 competitors in Larry Keenan and George Gervin, and the Kentucky Colonels had Artis Gilmore. Dr. J actually suggested to the organizers that they should add a white guy to the contest, but nobody could really think of a white guy in the ABA who could actually dunk. This was also held at halftime of the All-Star Game, so the guys who were competing had just played a half of basketball, so some legs had some fatigue, and of course they still had another half of basketball to play. But the league was running short on cash flow at this point. All the competitors chosen for the contest were already there as All-Stars. Nobody was flown in just to compete in this contest, so the league certainly was not going to set it apart on another day. Now, even before the contest, most everybody expected for it to come down to Julius Erving and hometown hero David Thompson, and that's exactly what happened. Thompson got the locals out of their seats with some 360 magic, but it was Erving's takeoff from the free throw line for his final dunk that sealed the win for him. And what did Dr. J get for winning the dunk contest? A $1,000 check and a new stereo system. The dunk contest was a certified hit. Sports Illustrated even called it the best halftime invention since the restroom. The ABA would blend with the NBA the next season and eventually brought with it the style and excitement that it was known for in its short history. And eventually, the NBA adopted the dunk contest as part of its All-Star Weekend in 1984. On this day in 1970, a coin flip changed the path for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were without a doubt the best team in the NFL in the 1970s. They won 4 Super Bowls during the decade, establishing themselves as a dynasty. But in 1969, they were simply not very good. They finished 1-13, tied with the Chicago Bears for the worst record in the NFL. During the 50s and the 60s, the Steelers had famously passed on 2 future Hall of Famers. First, Johnny Unitas, because the Steelers didn't think he was smart enough or big enough to play quarterback in the NFL. They also gave up a chance to draft Jim Brown. If they had managed to realize the talent of those 2 guys, we may be talking about the Steelers as the dynasty of the 60s instead. But in 1969, the Steelers were not very good at the quarterback position. Dick Shiner and Terry Hanratty shared duties calling the signals, and they combined to throw 15 touchdowns and 23 interceptions. There was a college quarterback that had a lot of teams' attention in that 70 draft, Terry Bradshaw out of Louisiana Tech. The Chicago Bears also needed a quarterback. George Halas had used 3 of them in '69 with equally poor results of a combined 11 touchdowns and 21 interceptions. Since they'd both finished with identical 1-13 records, there was to be a coin flip to determine which team got the first pick. Commissioner Pete Rozelle had a 1921 silver dollar in his hand, and Steelers owner Dan Rooney and Bears executive Ed McCaskey stood on either side of him. Rozelle looked at Rooney and asked him to call it in the air, but Rooney deferred to McCaskey, believing in some karmic return for his deference. Rozelle flipped the coin in the air, McCaskey called heads, and when it landed and came to rest, the coin was tails up. Pittsburgh celebrated their good fortune and then made their decision with the first overall pick.
First choice, first round, Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers select Terry Bradshaw, quarterback, Louisiana Tech.
Chicago traded the number 2 pick to the Green Bay Packers, who took Mike McCoy, an offensive lineman from Notre Dame. Now, just think how different things might have been if that coin had landed heads up and Bradshaw would have gone to Chicago. I mean, Bradshaw wasn't the only piece the Steelers needed, but it was one of the most important. The Steelers picked up another future Hall of Famer in Mel Blount in the 3rd round of that draft. Mean Joe Green had been drafted in '69, and then the Steelers hit the jackpot in the '74 draft with future Hall of Famers Lynn Swann, Jack Lambert, John Stallworth, and Mike Webster all selected. But Bradshaw was a key cog to that Steelers machine. A few hours after the draft ended, Rooney, head coach Chuck Noll, and their wives were having dinner in New Orleans. Rooney gave Noll the coin and told him, "Here, this is the beginning of good things to come." Neither really had any idea just how good things would be in a decade. And on this day in 2007, Serena Williams beat Maria Sharapova to win the Australian Open. With hindsight giving us the understanding of just how great a player Serena was, that doesn't sound that surprising until you understand the situation at this point in her career. This wasn't just another major in a long line of tournament wins for Serena. If she had not done well during this Australian Open, her career would have been much different. 2006 had been disastrous for her. A nagging ankle injury coupled with depression and dealing with the tragic murder of her sister Yetundi in 2003 led her to step away from tennis for 6 months. She needed a wild card to enter the U.S. Open and finished out 2006 ranked 79th. She started off 2007 with a disappointing loss to Sabila Bomber in the quarterfinals of an Aussie warm-up event. When she got to the Australian Open in 2007, she was ranked 81st in the world and considered to be out of shape, overweight, and delusional for saying she was going to return to the top of tennis. Her Nike rep gave her an ultimatum prior to the tournament start: play like you did, or we are dropping you, which Serena took as needing to get to at least the quarterfinals. She won her first 2 matches fairly easily, but faced a tough test in her third-round match versus Nadia Petrova. She faced match point in the second set but rallied to win 7-5, and then advanced with a 6-3 win in the third. In the quarterfinals, she again was staring down the barrel of match point, only to rally again to win the set and the match to advance to the semis. She won her semifinal match in straight sets to reach the final against Maria Sharapova. The analyst on the American broadcast of her semifinal match, Tracy Austin, said Serena had a great run, but it was going to come to a harsh end against the world number 1. Serena put that quote up on her mental bulletin board and then went out and blitzed Sharapova on this day in 2007.
An expression of omnipotence by Serena Williams. Convincingly, she is the 2007 Australian Open champion.
It was a straight-set championship win for Serena, 6-1, 6-2, and then after the match, she dedicated the win to her sister.
And most of all, I would like to dedicate this win to my sister, who's not here. Her name is Yetundi, and I just love her so much. I'll try not to get teary-eyed, but a couple days ago I said, if I win this, it's going to be for her, so thanks, Tundi.
Serena would go on to make the quarterfinals at the French, Wimbledon, and the U.S. Open that year and rise to number 7 by the end of the 2007 season. A couple of quick ones that may help you out at bar trivia this week. On this day in 1970, Arthur Ashe became the first black player to win a singles match at the Australian Open. He remains the only black man to win the Australian, Wimbledon, or the U.S. Open. On this day in 1996, Monica Seles won the Australian Open, defeating Germany's Anke Huber in straight sets. It was the only Grand Slam event she won after she was stabbed during a match in 1993. And on this day in 1991, Buffalo kicker Scott Norwood missed the game-winning field goal at Super Bowl 25. Norwood's kick missed wide right, giving the New York Giants the 20-19 win. It was the first of what would be 4 straight Super Bowl appearances for the Bills without a win. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. In 2001, Eddie Van Halen drove a military assault vehicle in L.A. to retrieve his guitar. He'd met Limp Bizkit singer Fred Durst with talks about a collaboration between Eddie and Limp Bizkit kicked around. Well, one day Eddie went to Durst's house in Beverly Hills to jam. At some point during the day or night, weed began to be passed around. Eddie was sober and clean at this point, and he had no interest, so he left, leaving behind his guitar and amp in the process. Well, the next day, he called Durst to try to get his stuff back, left a message, but did not hear anything back from him. So the next day, Eddie drove his assault vehicle he'd purchased in a military auction cross town to Durst's house, left it idling in the front yard as he walked up to the front door with a gun, rang the doorbell, and then demanded his stuff back. His guitar was quickly handed back to him. That's all I've got for today. Come on back tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.